Naoya Inoue, widely known as the Monster, is one of the most feared and respected fighters in modern boxing. While he may not be the tallest or the biggest athlete in the sport, his technique, timing, ring IQ, and devastating power have earned him admiration from boxing legends including Mike Tyson. Some even claim he is more complete than Manny Pacquiao was at the same stage of his career. But greatness comes with critics, and Inoue has faced his share of arrogant fighters who tried to insult him, belittle him, or get into his head in hopes of throwing him off his game. What they didn't realize was that insulting Inoue never works in their favor. It only fuels him to deliver even more violent performances. And every fighter who mocked him, questioned his skills, or doubted his accomplishments ended up paying a painful price inside the ring. Some opponents underestimated him because of his size. "He's too small for me," they said. Others claimed he was too short. Some couldn't even pronounce his name correctly, mocking him publicly to appear confident. But the worst insult came before the Stephen Fulton fight, when Fulton's coach accused Inoue of loaded gloves in front of millions. The accusation was baseless, but it was an attempt to sabotage Inoue mentally. Fulton and his team watched Inoue's entire hand-wrapping process with an intensity that revealed their insecurity. They were looking for something, anything, that could give them an excuse. But when everything turned out legal and clean, the tension shifted. There were no excuses left. Only the fight remained. Stephen Fulton was considered one of the most skilled champions in his division. A rising star, undefeated, and known for his smooth boxing style. He beat Angelo Leo to become champion, then unified by defeating Brandon Figueroa in a fierce war. Many fans believe Fulton's experience, reach, and footwork would trouble Inoue. Some even thought Fulton's slick style was the perfect formula to expose Inoue. However, none of that mattered once the bell rang. The fight quickly turned into one of the most one-sided pound-for-pound matchups the sport had ever seen. From round one, the energy inside the arena felt electric. Both men were top 10 pound-for-pound fighters, and both had something to prove. But only one fighter approached the night with real confidence, and the crowd sensed it every time Inoue stepped forward. The first round was cautious but revealing. The fighters studied each other's timing, footwork, and reactions. Inoue knew Fulton was bigger, so he respected the distance early, but he wasted no time testing his opponent's jab and rhythm. Fulton tried to establish his long punches, but Inoue slipped them smoothly. Even the crowd reacted loudly whenever Inoue unleashed an explosive burst of speed, showing the pressure he already placed on Fulton. Inoue wasn't throwing wild shots, he was downloading information. And by the end of the first round, the momentum clearly shifted toward the Japanese champion. Round two began differently. Inoue loosened up and started walking Fulton down. His movement was smoother, his pressure more confident, and his timing more accurate. Fulton's corner looked confused as Inoue repeatedly disrupted their game plan. Fulton wanted to maintain the outside range, but Inoue's footwork kept closing the gap faster than Fulton could reset. Inoue's offensive burst became harder to anticipate, and his jab was landing with pinpoint accuracy. It was shocking to see a smaller fighter dominate the distance against a naturally bigger boxer. Fulton began showing signs of frustration, unable to find clean openings. Every time he attempted a counter, Inoue slipped, rolled, or returned fire. Inoue's defense was just as sharp as his offense, and his accuracy made Fulton look slow. By round three, Fulton realized he was falling dangerously behind. His early trash talk about loaded gloves and Japanese hype suddenly felt childish. Inoue was proving himself superior in every category. Fulton landed a few clean punches, but Inoue responded instantly, taking away any momentum Fulton tried to build. It became clear that the undefeated champion had never faced anyone with Inoue's combination of speed, power, timing, and ring awareness. Inoue even began targeting the body, hammering Fulton's ribs and forcing him to hesitate. The more Fulton tried to keep his distance, the more Inoue punished him. What made this performance special was how naturally Inoue adjusted. He didn't panic, rush, or swing wildly. He simply calculated the fight like a chess master. By round four, Fulton was getting overwhelmed. The bigger man couldn't outmuscle Inoue, couldn't outspeed him, and couldn't figure out how to stop the pressure. Inoue controlled the feinting game, forcing Fulton to react constantly. Fulton's footwork, usually one of his strengths, looked predictable as Inoue read every movement. Whenever Fulton tried to escape to his left or right, Inoue cut off the ring with perfect angles. He wasn't chasing, he was hurting Fulton, step by step toward punishment. As Fulton backed up repeatedly, the truth became undeniable. Inoue was not just better. He was operating at a completely different level. By round 5, the dominance became clear to everyone watching. Inoue had won every round easily, and now he turned up the pace. His shots became sharper. His combinations became more intentional. His jabs snapped Fulton's head back with increasing power. Fulton began resembling a stationary target. His reactions slowed, his shoulders tightened, and his counters disappeared entirely. Inoue started styling on him, landing powerful shots while barely getting touched in return. Fulton's confidence evaporated. His corner grew silent, unsure of what adjustments to suggest. Every attempt Fulton made to reset was met with more punishment. Round 6 intensified everything. Inoue entered with a different energy, fully aware of the disrespect he had received in the build-up, the false accusations, the mocking comments, the attempts to discredit his achievements. Inoue fought with calm fury, a dangerous combination. Fulton tried to survive, but Inoue controlled every exchange. This was not just a fight, it was a statement. Fulton had talked too much, crossed the line, and now the price had come due. Inoue punished him in every area of the ring. Fulton's reputation as a slick defensive boxer meant nothing now. Every time he landed even a small punch, Inoue answered with several more. Fulton looked discouraged, drained, and lost. For the first time in his career, he looked like a man questioning everything. Round 7 was pure domination. Fulton's offense was non-existent. His punches lacked authority. His reactions were slow. Inoue, meanwhile, was landing at will. His timing peaked here, and he pressed forward with complete confidence. He sat down on every punch, loading his shots with power designed to end the fight. Fulton's face showed the truth. He had no answers. He wasn't just being beaten, he was being broken. Slowly, methodically, brutally. And then came round 8, the round that ended everything. Inoue had been hunting the perfect moment, and when it came, he struck with terrifying precision. A massive right hand detonated on Fulton's jaw, dropping him instantly. The crowd erupted. Fulton struggled to stand, but his legs wobbled uncontrollably. He survived the count, but the fight was effectively over. Inoue charged forward, unleashing a violent barrage of hooks, jabs, and uppercuts. Fulton covered up desperately, but the referee saw enough. He stepped in and stopped the fight. Just like that, the undefeated champion who claimed Inoue was overhyped was humbled in a brutal fashion. After Stephen Fulton was dismantled and humbled in one of the most dominant pound-for-pound performances ever seen, the message became clear. Insulting Naoya Inoue, doubting him, or questioning his legitimacy never ends well. And Fulton was not the first fighter to learn this lesson the hard way. For years, opponents tried using disrespectful tactics to edge out a psychological advantage, believing they could get Inoue emotional, frustrated, or off balance. But in boxing, disrespecting the monster only wakes him up. And perhaps no fighter learned this more painfully than Omar Narvaez, a legendary world champion who walked into the ring believing he could bully Inoue with his resume and experience. Narvaez was a veteran with over 40 wins, a 2-division champion, and someone who had faced great fighters across multiple eras. Instead of showing mutual respect, Narvaez mocked Inoue in the press, saying that the Japanese champion had not proven himself and that he was too young and inexperienced to handle a fighter of Narvaez's caliber. Narvaez was confident, too confident. He had no idea what was coming. When the fight began, Narvaez attempted to use his typical defensive style, slipping shots and covering up behind his high guard, but Inoue read him instantly. He fired a monstrous right hand that smashed through Narvaez's guard and sent him crashing to the floor. The veteran stood up in disbelief, shocked that a smaller, younger fighter could punch with such raw power. Seconds later, Inoue dropped him again with a perfectly timed shot to the body. Narvaez grimaced in agony, barely beating the count. The third knockdown came just moments after he stood again. It was a complete demolition. A combination of head and body shots forced him to collapse helplessly. The crowd was stunned. Narvaez, a legendary world champion, had been reduced to a shell in less than 2 rounds. The referee stopped the fight before Narvaez suffered long-term damage. Afterward, Narvaez admitted something simple but powerful. "I knew he was good. I just didn't know he was that good." It was a polite way of saying he deeply regretted underestimating the monster. But perhaps the most violent example of karma came against Jason Maloney. In the lead-up to their fight, Maloney insisted he would expose Inoue. He argued Inoue was overrated, claiming he had holes in his defense, predicting he would beat him to the punch and shock the world. Moulinet and his team believed Inoue was vulnerable because of the war he had endured against Nonito Donaire. They expected a weakened version of the champion, a version they thought they could exploit. Instead, what they faced was a sharper, faster, and more dangerous monster. Inoue entered the ring with icy focus. From round one, he controlled distance effortlessly. Maloney tried to close the gap, but every attempt was met with a brutal counter. Inoue's jab landed like a spear, snapping Maloney's head back again and again. Maloney attempted to circle, to create angles, to use footwork, but Inoue had already downloaded his patterns. There was no escape. By round three, Maloney's confidence was gone. He stopped throwing combinations and began fighting strictly on the back foot. Inoue increased the pressure, punishing Maloney's body, breaking his rhythm, and systematically shutting down his style. The fight became more brutal as the rounds progressed. Inoue's counters grew heavier, his timing more perfect. And then, in round 7, Inoue delivered one of the most devastating knockout punches of his career. Maloney threw a lazy jab, and Inoue responded with a lightning-fast right hand that detonated on Maloney's jaw. Maloney collapsed instantly, unconscious before he hit the canvas. The referee didn't even bother with a count. It was over. Maloney lay on the floor staring at the ceiling, his soul separated from his body. Inoue didn't celebrate wildly. He simply walked to his corner with the same calm expression he always had. Justice served, karma delivered, another doubter erased. But disrespect toward Inoue didn't only come from boxers. Some came from their teams. Luis Neri's camp, for example, openly mocked Inoue, calling him overrated and predicting Neri would knock him out. They said the fight would be easy. Neri himself said Inoue's power wouldn't faze him, and that Japanese fighters were not built like Mexicans. Instead, in round 1, Neri knocked Inoue down unexpectedly. The crowd gasped, but that moment did not break Inoue. It awakened him. He rose, nodded his head, and went back to work. What followed was a transformation. Inoue became an entirely different creature, angrier, sharper, and far more dangerous. Each round after the knockdown looked like a punishment session. Inoue unloaded vicious combinations, stepped around Neri's guard, and landed crushing body shots. By round 5, Neri looked like he wanted to quit. Inoue smelled blood. And in round 6, he delivered a nuclear right hand that folded Neri like a chair. The knockout was so violent that fans around the world screamed. Neri lay on the floor motionless as Inoue stood above him, calm, composed, and terrifying. Inoue is not a trash talker. He doesn't seek headlines with insults. But when others try to disrespect him, something inside him unlocks. His punches get sharper, his timing gets scarier, his focus becomes absolute. Every insult becomes fuel, every arrogant comment becomes a target, and every fighter who underestimates him becomes another name on a long list of broken opponents. From Emmanuel Rodriguez to Jamie McDonnell, from Jason Maloney to Stephen Fulton, the story remains the same. Disrespecting Naoya Inoue has consequences. What makes Inoue even more frightening is that he is still evolving. He is still improving, still sharpening his weapons, still learning new ways to destroy opponents. He enters every fight with a calm smile, but that smile hides one of the deadliest skill sets boxing has ever seen. Fighters now understand that facing Inoue requires not only strength, skill, and courage, but respect. Because if you try to insult the monster, if you try to belittle him, if you make the mistake of doubting him, the ending will always be the same. Brutal karma delivered in the form of a highlight reel knockout.